All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. A little busy today, but got too many requests to not make this one. So we'll take a look at KULR on its own, and there's some interesting things happening here, okay? And really, in my head, there's I think three significant things, all right? First and foremost, it is the 8 moving average. Second off, it is volume. And then from there, it's this 2 week moment. All right. And I think that's the 1, 2, 3 I'm going to be talking about. Look, I know a lot of people have longer term thoughts on KULR, right? I'm a short term trader. That is what this channel is, right? But I'll try to zoom out a little bit and give you some longer term thoughts as well. It's not my bread and butter. I kind of struggled with it a little bit on the weed videos I made yesterday or the day before. I don't even remember. But hey, I'm here to challenge myself as well. And like I said, this is a place where we're comfortable to make mistakes, and the goal is always to get better than we were today, right? So I'll put my foot forward on that and try to struggle a little bit here, all right? But we will do the normal, like I said, and then what I will plan on doing is I'll zoom out a bit, and between these three, between the monthly, quarterly, and yearly, I'll give some further out thoughts than I normally do. All right, but yeah, look, we've talked about the military contracts. I don't think there's any new news right now, and that's why I think that big 1, 2, 3, the 8 moving average, volume, and then this 2 week moment is at least my immediate focus. All right, but none of that immediate stuff will matter at all when I zoom out, because again, these January moments are just a drop in the bucket when you're looking at monthly, quarterly, and yearly views, right? So excited for this one for sure, but before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly. The only difference on this one is I'm going to do my best to zoom out a little bit, and we'll use some further out charts. From there, we're going to have the same 5 moving averages. I will still draw horizontal support and resistance lines manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So let's get into it. And look, I'm going to start with the short-term analysis. That really is my bread and butter. That's what I'm more comfortable with. From there, I'm going to do my best to give you the further out views, and I'll chapter that one off separately, all right? But look, there's a end of the day, as long as you're over the 8 and the 20 moving average, you're in a good place in my eyes, right? That's you're in a real bad place when you're under them. You're in a real good place when you're over them, and that's a very important baseline. And hey, we're still riding this 8 moving average up. All right, we definitely had a not nice candle below it, but none of these two actually confirm that we've lost the line. And realistically, the distance between the 8 and the 20 isn't horrible. All right, what did I just cover? Maybe NNE was a good example. Not really. Okay, let's just use that example. When your 8 is up here and then your 20 is all the way down there, believe me, I'm not a big fan of losing the 8 and going all the way down to the 20. That's a really nasty fall from what looks like a number in the 20s all the way down to a number in the teens, right? If you're looking at the box over there, you're going from 22 to 14 if you lose the 8 and the 20. When we're looking at KULR, that's not quite the case. When you zoom out, maybe it doesn't look as pretty, but realistically, we're talking about going from, actually, that's not a really good number either. You're going from almost 4 to 250. That's a little bit of a rough number right there. I definitely wouldn't want to lose it. I think I took those words back as I actually look at the math right there, right? But nonetheless, the point a little bit was supposed to be the spacing of the moving averages. The important thing itself is not losing the 8, though. And so far, we haven't. Actually, on this entire climb, this was the only time we lost it, really, right? But we find ourselves bouncing and going, and I want to talk about this little moment right here. So most stocks cannot, and I'm telling you, cannot survive three dojis in a row, let alone four dojis. This is about eight of them if I'm using my eyes correctly. It almost even looks like 10 if you go from this Monday all the way to the Thursday one right there, right? But this stock has actually lived on dojis completely horizontal on the 8 moving average. And there's a little bit of the back of my head that's saying, you know what? If you can do it once and you've done it actually relatively recently, you might be able to do it again. And you can see what went from an 8 to 20 fall that was that far, right? And again, it doesn't look that bad, but when you look at the numbers, it's about a 50% drop, right? You're going from a buck 20 to 70, not quite 50, but that's not good, right? It was able to stay and stay and stay until the lines got significantly closer and then obviously takes off, right? So right now, I'm thinking to myself, can this thing just stay horizontally? Can you just wait and wait and wait till whatever it is that we're waiting for comes and goes, okay? I think an interesting whatever we're waiting for could be the NASDAQ, okay? Because look, let me actually just take a step back real quick. From November 11th, we've been going up here, all right? I don't know exactly when NASDAQ started taking off, but hey, from the 11th till about here, it actually does have a decent one. That was obviously the better uptrend right there, right? But yeah, I mean, NASDAQ had a nice little run from like that 4th till basically today, right? And I think KULR was able to get a good amount of love from that. NASDAQ's at a place where it's trying to reset and recover. Today was an interesting doji. It could be a better doji. It could be a better candle. Could be way worse too, right? But give me a little bit more. Give me a nice follow through. And yeah, that's a real healthy RSI on the NASDAQ daily. That's a decent RSI on the weekly. Weekly hasn't even come close to losing the 8. We actually maybe even just made a fresh bounce on the 8, right? So NASDAQ's looking good. And I think if NASDAQ can make more people believe, right? Give me a nice tomorrow, that might be enough for KULR. All right. I think what I'm looking for on KULR is four. Let's call it 415. I'm clicking on 416 right now, but give me a little bit more than half of this December candle, and I mean, you do that, and all of a sudden you're right back over the 8. You're continuing the march back on up. Do I have a line above here? I don't have a line above here. Oh my! I think we got to draw a golden line. I think we're at a golden line test. I think that's what's happening. And let's draw it well. It has to be that guy. That's a big enough candle to be the golden line. All right, whatever, 366. We'll make this one golden. Cool. I almost went with this right, no, sorry, with that right there, 50% candle. And that's actually give or take where we're sitting at after hours right now. I almost went with the 50% right there. I went with the top of this one. The main reason why, and I'm zooming out just to kind of highlight a couple things, okay? Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, let me say my words and then you'll know why I said interesting. So I drew this vertical line right here. I do not like it on the daily when there's dashes, right? Like that's not a candle. That's literally a dash. I'll just zoom in so you can see it. All right. That is shady on the 1 minute chart. That is extra super shady on the daily. And all those dashes seem to go away after this line. After the line, it becomes a little bit more full candles. It's interesting that the line I drew was almost the IPO moment. And really, yeah, no, I like that. I like this line just a little bit more now, actually, too. But yeah, these are the first real IPO candles. Obviously, again, to me, they're shady and fake ones, right? But, oh, come on. What did I just do? I don't know what I just did. Whatever. Nonetheless, 366 is our line right now. All right, listen, 366 might be harder to break than it looks. And actually, I think that's exactly what we saw here. That's a beautiful candle. That should have confirmed and ran, but it didn't because it actually was the golden line. And some lines are harder to break than others, and for real, golden lines are because, hey, not everything can go into all-time highs, but if you do, all of a sudden I just expect 20% after 20% after 20%. All right. So I think 366 is a very important line. Obviously, the 8 moving average is right there. It's basically at 380 if you're looking at the box right there. And then right where I was clicking was around 415. So I think to me, 415 is a real good number because it's almost like a cluster right there. You got the moving average and you got an important line. You're gonna want to believe just a little bit extra right there, and I think that 416 line can do it. All right, so that's what I'm looking for short term. I think if we start to lose, and that's actually roughly where we closed today. We don't want to lose the top of this candle right there, and that's $3.42. I think if you were to lose 342, that's where you're probably going to come down to 260 because we actually almost lost it once. I don't want to come back to an almost lost it again, right? I would rather go up to that 416 and go. But yeah, you got to get ready for both sides of the coin, right? I don't think there's too many weekly thoughts. What's that line right there? Should I move up that 260? I'll be honest, I'm just going to delete that 260. I don't think we need it anymore. At this point, we have the 20 moving average right there. Yeah, I don't think we need that line. Cool. I think that's the only actual line that matters. Truth be told, it probably is the 8 moving average that might matter a little bit, but I think the golden line's worth actually keeping right there, all right? So, yeah, one more time, do not lose 342. Really, I would love KULR if this thing can break around 415 depending your risk reward tolerance. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is the volume before I go into the long term one. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just to get rid of this single outlier. This is the biggest by far candle, and really nothing even comes close to it, right? So let's just get rid of that. We're seeing a little bit more inconsistent volume than I'd like. All right, there are easily at least most of these, actually every single one of these days, we've been at the 50-day line. So that's at least a decent thing. But yeah, I want to see more green buy candles on this than I want to see the reds, right? Again, it was just a couple weeks ago that we stayed at least horizontal when we had minimal volume and more selling than buying, which is just really interesting, right? But I don't want to have to do that again. I really don't, right? Give us a little bit more. Hopefully Nasdaq can give us a bit more. It wasn't that long ago where 50 million shares was making me happy, and it was probably around this time if I had to guess. At this point, we need to come back to here, right? I see this candle's there, I see this candle's there, and I see this candle's there, and we obviously have a couple more that are above it. So we now need more than 70 million shares per day. I'm clicking at 76. Let's just use 77 million shares. I'm bringing the calculator because my math's been really embarrassing lately. If we want 77 million shares in a 7-hour day, we need 11 million shares an hour. All right? We better be nicely over 20 million shares in that second hour tomorrow. If that can happen, I'll start to believe that 4 line is going to want to break, right? That 415, give or take, right? So watch for 11 million shares per hour. Keep in your back pocket that this thing knows how to live in a horizontal doji, and then we've got our lines up and down. So this was the short-term thought. This is what I consider myself better at this than what we're going to do next. But again, I always say it. I'm here to create a comfortable place where people can mess up and know that it's better to mess up here than on your actual trading account, right? Like, oh my goodness. So I'll chapter right here at 12:55, and I'm going to start with the monthly. Okay, so where are we on the monthly chart? It's a pretty interesting monthly chart as I'm looking at it, all right? You kind of have to ignore the line a little bit because, again, this is off the daily, right? But I guess in some ways it still matters because it's that all-time highs line, okay? But I think what I'm looking at right now is basically 2 things, okay? We are, for the first time, it looks like in a good while, over the 50, actually for the first time ever, right? Because we tried once, we couldn't confirm. We've now significantly tried better. We still got to confirm, right? I think it's cool to see that we did close nicely over the biggest candle to the left. That's a real cool thing right there. Yeah, I mean, the RSI is a little high, but I like this MACD and I love this volume. Right, so I think the important things that I'm seeing here are basically 2 things. Number one, if this thing was going to come down, I could see 260 being the come down, maybe a little bit lower to that 245. All right, I think it might be really hard to expect KULR to go below 250. I think at this point we've established some really decent support at 250 because as I was clicking there, it was the top of this. It was basically 50% of that, right? Like 250 seems like a good number. Obviously, I have to talk about the 50 moving average being down here, but I think that's too extreme. So right now, I'm at least thinking to myself, hey, we've set a nice 250 support, and really same kind of thing. If we can just get over this golden line, we're really good. This one's saying that the golden line is actually a little bit lower. It looks like it's a little closer to 349 is the close of this candle. 353 was the close of this one. What did we close here at? 355. We actually did close over both of those. Lovely. Hey, I like that. Cool. I do like that on the monthly a lot, actually. Again, this high RSI is the only thing that bothers me, I would say. But truth be told, if the Nasdaq can do well, what's the Nasdaq on the monthly? You would think I'd know that. Monthly Nasdaq, yeah, it's a relatively high RSI, but still, I'm liking the other stuff way better, right? So, cool. I think that's what I got from the monthly. Let's see if I can go straight to the yearly. Oh man, that's a good yearly candle, right? At this point, we obviously broke the biggest candle to the left, right? That was this one right here. That's the only good green one. We were able to turn the red, red, red into green, green, green. What's half a U right there? 206. This one's telling me 206 is that support. On the monthly, it was telling me 250. I think I'll just take the middle of that and say, look, I think it's going to be really hard to expect KULR to go below 230 at this point, all right? Last thing we'll look at is the quarterly. What is that line again? No, that's way too low. I'm not going to take that. Yeah, I think those are my two. I think my biggest takeaway from the long term is that 250 support point. Look, if it loses 250, all of a sudden the numbers below that were in the one somethings, right? So just kind of keep that in your back pocket. But yeah, I think KULR itself has shown a nice little safety net around that 250 thing. All right, each of these, the monthly was one good candle over the 50, right? The quarterly was one good candle that broke multiple moving averages, right? And then the yearly was one good candle that got over the biggest one, right? So each of these three does need one more to confirm. That's an important thing across it, right? But if the monthly one can confirm, that's going to start making me believe that the quarterly one's going to confirm. If the quarterly one can confirm, that should set it up well to end the year well. And then obviously if the year ends well, I'm going to see the exact same excitement going into next year, right? So not my worst long-term view. Obviously, there's a lot of outside factors that the charts are going to have no idea about, right? Can KULR get more military contracts, right? Can we branch out into other divisions of the military, right? That'd be beautiful. Imagine getting checks from the Navy, from the Army, from the Marines, from everyone, right? All those are all very, very deep pockets, and all those purchase orders never bounce. Those checks don't bounce. You know what I mean? So no matter how much debt the government has, they're always going to print more, and yeah, those checks aren't going to bounce, right? Can KULR get more patents? Can they start to connect themselves to other bigger, important tickers, right? Other important, bigger people, right? Can they bring some cool people into the board? Oh man, right? So there are obviously things that I have no idea about, and the charts won't be able to dictate what happens there. But if the volume comes with it, if we break this golden line, it's all-time highs. And hey, I like seeing such a good support around 250. Look, going from 350 to 250 is a pretty bad loss, actually. I'm roughly saying you're going to lose about 30% if that happens, right? You're losing $1 on a stock that has three of them, right? That said, again, KULR, not that long ago, just to kind of come back to the weekly chart and zoom out, not that long ago, this thing was an 11-cent stock, right? So to honestly, like, think that this is not going to go below 250, that's not too shabby. Where is the 200 moving average? That's the 130 number. So again, like I said, I think if we lose that 250, the next real numbers are in the one somethings, but yeah, even the 8 moving average just on the weekly is at 230, which I think makes that 250 number a little bit stronger. What are you at right here? Yeah, 250 almost to the penny is a 20 moving average on the daily, right? So, yeah, I'm seeing some real good strength right there. Hopefully, we don't lose that. Obviously, we'll be ready. And again, just to end it one more time, even on the long term, NASDAQ's still looking good. NASDAQ, like we are nicely over the golden line. When you zoom out, it's been a good while since we've needed to use the 20, and we actually had to use the 50 once right there, right? But we're doing nicely on the 8 moving average right there. When you look in the monthly, we actually even haven't come down once. We haven't even come down really close to losing the 8 just yet. So as you zoom out, and there's a lot of lines, I do apologize. That's one of the problems, right? But yeah, even as you look at the quarterly, that's a real healthy 66. And hey, wasn't that long ago we were up in the 80s, right? So quarterly has a good healthy RSI. Ending it with the yearly, yeah, look at that MACD on the yearly. That's not too bad right there, right? So Nasdaq's looking good, and I think that's making me feel comfortable on tech stocks in general, right? And hey, that is what KULR is. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.